Basically, I had made the offer to answer any questions that anybody had about CRV, the different forms of remote viewing, the military history, as well as I can legally answer those. And large portions of the military history are quite fuzzy, so I may have one answer and one of the other military viewers may have another answer. Part of that is because due to the nature of remote viewing, we were always kept fairly separate from each other, and so everybody has his or her own memories of the unit, which differ widely, actually. Two people sitting at desks side by side will have seen an event differently and may have gotten feedback differently. So please remember that anything about the history of the unit or things we did in the unit and all, one of the ex-military members may remember it and another one may say, oh, that never happened, and such as that. So so if you ask anything like that, it will be my memory of what happened, okay? And yes, the question is what agencies were customers of the program. The CIA has effectively, and you'll always hear the word effectively, declassified the project. There are certain things that were not declassified. You have heard probably some of the other viewers, one or two of the other viewers, talk about different projects that were done for this agency or that agency. And some of those agencies don't mind, but that's still part of what's classified. And so talking about who our customers were, what we did for them and all that, I mean, I hate for the first question to say, be one of those that I say I don't really feel comfortable to answer, but that part has not really been declassified yet. So, sorry, but no answer has to be the answer. The question was, can I clarify the role of Dale Graff? Basically, he was one of the initial creators of the project. Now, back at the time, he was working Air Force, and they had a project. I haven't done my homework here. I have never found out the name of that project and so forth, but it was later that he came over to, to the project that is now. That project for the Air Force was sort of ill-fated and died out on its own, and yet the things that were learned there, the things that were done there, helped provide the basis for the initial creation of Scan 8 and so forth. When Skip Atwater came in, he was not unmindful of the work done by Dale Graff earlier. Dale Graff later became one of the directors for the unit, and I guess he retired. I'm not sure about this. I think he retired about 2 or 3 years before the project ended. The question is, given Dale's association with the Air Force and all that, is there any reason to suspect that there may have been another unit in any of the other branches of service? I think that's pretty common knowledge. There were. You've got dowsers in the Marines. The Navy has been, trying to do stuff with this for a long time. And sure, there were other you wouldn't specifically call them projects in the term a formal unit having been organized and funded by Congress and all that. But sure, the history of the U.S. is, I mean, just replete with some general saying to an aide, you know, find out if this can be used, and one of the people will be psychic, or somebody knows a psychic, and they'll say, well, see what we can do. Yeah, there have been a lot of other units. And note my use of the tense of the verb, because whether there are other units is another question altogether. So do we know anything about the other units that may have existed? Not really. I think they were all pretty well ad hoc.
About like Lyn.
Glenn, I have talked to him over this weekend. Glenn may have gone through some training, but the question has always been, was it formal training? Was it formally sponsored and funded by the military? And the answer is nobody knows. Yeah. The question is that Ingo has indicated that he may have trained another unit formally. I don't know anything about it. And basically you would have to pry that information out of Ingo Swan. Good luck.
If it's prized.
So the question is, compare Ed Dame's training to the other. Ed offers training all the way up through, I think, phase 6 or stage 6. One of the things that we had found through the time in the unit and all was that, see, the controlled remote viewing structure is very complex, very nitpicky, very highly formalized. You spend a lot of time consciously thinking, oops, I just got that perception, where does it go? Well, one of the reasons for this that is never actually made public, you know, or plain, is that you're keeping your conscious mind busy on all this nitpicky stuff so that it doesn't get in the way. Ed always tried to simplify the process. We've basically found that every time you simplify the process, the conscious mind doesn't have that much to do, and so it starts getting in the way, and the scores go down. And so we have improved on Ingo's structure probably 1,000 times. And 1,000 times the score goes down. But you know, logically, operationally, and all that, boy, have we got a better way to do it. Well, when Ed says, you know, I've improved on the Ingo Swan structure, show me the database. Prove that it's better, you know. To improve on the methodology, to make it easier, faster, easier to understand and all that, hey, that's a piece of cake. But what is the effect of the end result of the score? And I know that the track record of not only Ed's improvements while in the unit, but the improvements that almost every one of us made, the end result was the score went down. Now, there were some improvements that were made over the period of time in the unit where the scores went up. The question is, can I give an example of an improvement that makes the score go down? Oh, okay, here's a very good one. Ed is very quick to say that after you're trained and all, you don't have to go through that stage 1, 2, 3, and 4. You can just sit down and start out in stage 4 and keep going. Now, I have done this a few times myself, and it has worked a few times. But generally what I find out is that the score just, I mean, is in the toity, to, you know, to coin a phrase, and that abandoning the process of stages 1, 2, and 3 just doesn't prepare you for the sight contact that you need in stage 4. Now it makes it makes the session a whole lot shorter, makes it much easier to do, and it makes it feel better. I mean, you get into stage 4 and you're working along and man, I've got this target, and you're absolutely convinced of it. The fact is that your imagination has taken over and what you're getting is garbage. It's really feel-good garbage, but you know, it's garbage nonetheless. So that's one example. There are a lot of other things. There are a lot of things in the Ingo structure which are not readily obvious. For the longest time, there's a thing called the ideogram A and B. You do your ideogram, and then you go over and you put A, and you tell the motion of the ideogram, the motion you made to make the ideogram. And it's as though you're talking to somebody on the phone. You say, well, the line goes up, it loops, it goes across, angle, down. And so as though you were describing it over the phone so somebody else could draw it. Then you say, and it feels like this, and you touch the paper to get a kinesthetic feel of it. And you write down how it feels: rough, smooth, hard, slick, you know, hard, soft, slicky, sticky, whatever. Excuse me. Then you put B, and then you put down, that's my ideogram for whatever it should be. One slang term for that B is a wag. It's a wild-ass guess. Yeah. And so it was always my opinion that you should have A, motion, B, feeling, C, that's my ideogram for, and write down the gestalt.
That's what Morehouse does, ABC.
And it took me about 13 years, and I was doing a session one day, and all of a sudden I realized why it can't be that way. And it can't. The thing of having the motion and the feel within the A is actually a psychological process that gets you set up for more accuracy when you write down the B and write down the gestalt. So it's a psychological thing that's very, very subtle. And yet you do the ABC and your accuracy on that C is not going to be as good. The question is about tasker manipulation, and tasking the answer is basically what it's called. Yeah, you'll find that's a very common thing. Somebody will come to a remote viewer and say, let's make it a more subtle one. They'll come to a viewer and they'll say, somebody stole my stereo, and I want to get this guy. Describe him for me. Wait a minute, who said it was a him? And yet he has tasked you with describing a male. So he has tasked you with the answer. Now you come back and you say, you know, it was a female and it wasn't stolen. Or you come back and you say, hey, it wasn't stolen at all. You know, that's not the answer they wanted to hear. They'll reject your answer. Yeah, tasking the answer and getting the wrong tasking to work is a very big problem. In the unit, I always said that 50% of our problems were imagination, you know, AOL and all that. Another 50% of our problems was bad tasking. We'd be tasked with the wrong question. And at least about 500% of the rest of our problems were just poor management, you know. But the two main problems is you get tasked with the question, that's what you're going to view. And then you take it back to the tasker and he says, well, that's not what I wanted to know. I'm sorry, but that's what you tasked. You know, that's what you ask. And a tasker, unless you have an interface with the tasker, will tend to always ask the wrong question. The question is, would a good viewer tend to go past the improper tasking whereas a fledgling viewer wouldn't. I think overall the answer would have to be no. A good, well-trained, experienced viewer will generally view what they're asked to view. And if they're asked to view the wrong thing, they'll go ahead and view it. They'll view it better, but it's still the wrong thing. Now, in stage 4 and 6, you have the 8 columns. What most people don't understand is that you're not limited to the 8 columns. I have a column that I stick, well, I have many different columns that can be added to the stage 4 structure and stage 6 structure. One of them is the TI column, tasker's intent. When I get the feeling that I'm answering the wrong question, then I stop, I move from that target to the tasker's intent and try to find out what the tasker really wants to know. Then I move from that to the target that the tasker really wanted, and I finish out the session that way. But now that's an artificial thing. I mean, it's not something that I just automatically know. It's just when I get that uneasy feeling that I'm answering the wrong question. And I've gotten the ability to get that feeling from answering the wrong question so many times. So the question is, would the analyst tend to catch the tasker's incorrect tasking? If you've got a good analyst, they will tend to catch the viewer's incorrect tasking, yeah. And quite often they can short circuit any problems by simply going back and saying to the project manager, I think we're asking the wrong question here. I think what the customer really wants to know is this, and then you do the circle again, you know. You may have the analyst turn around and say, I've got to go ask the customer if this is what he really wants. I know police departments, it seems like the further away from the street the cop gets, the denser he seems to get about cop problems. And so you get a police captain, and he'll do massive multiple tasking. We want to know who the perp is, what car he's driving, what happened and why, and all this other stuff, and he'll give you 50 different things that he wants to find. And you say, wait a minute, why don't you let me talk to the detective and I'll find out what information he needs. No, you go do this. One of the things I do in a case like that where I cannot get it down to a single question is I'll look in my database and I don't care what your accuracy rate is. I look for the number of perceptions. If I have one viewer who is totally accurate and gives me an average of 10 perceptions per session, I'll ignore him. I have another viewer that's maybe 10% accuracy, that's all you can depend on him, but he gives me 100 to 200 perceptions per session. I'll task that person with the question. He'll come back with page after page after page of perceptions. I take it back to the police captain, and the police captain says, oh, we knew this, oh, we don't care about that, and we'll go through eliminating all of the bad questions and say, well, here's what we really wanted to know. Then I'll take that question and task it to the other viewers. And so you have to deal with the tasker, and the tasker can rarely ever tell you what they want to know. How many cases has the assigned witness program worked so far? I've had several really major computer crashes, and so I can't give you an accurate number because I've lost my data so many times. However, an estimate of the number of projects we've worked, both missing children and just police cases and such as that, I would say between 60 and 100 cases so far. And that's over a period of many, many years. That's over a period of 8 years now. So I haven't had the time to do the assigned witness program like I would because it's just been an adjunct. It's been a public service of my company. Now that I'm taking the assigned witness program out, making it a standalone entity, not connected with my company in any way, I would love to see it where we have a staff of people working full-time. The single greatest need is people, training, money, and time. Probably equally. I need trained people. I need trained admin people. I need trained viewers. The trained viewers these days are very easy to come by, whereas it used to be impossible. I mean, we used to be limited to about 6 people. Now we've gotten a lot of trained viewers who are ready to work, willing to donate their time and effort, and I mean, just chomping at the bit to do the work. What we don't have is the legal people to make sure we have our tails covered so that we don't do something and everybody gets stuck in jail for it. We don't have the money for the communications, for the faxing things back and forth and all that, and just the cost. Money is a big factor, and now admin people, and the specialty people that are needed. That kind of thing is a growing need. Everybody has a plan for fundraising. Whether it's going to work or not, I don't know.
Specific kind of, when you say admin,
I'll tell you, I don't have time to do the assigned witness program. One of the things we need is a secretary. If we had a full-time secretary who could then simply take calls, look in the database, deal with the customer, find out what they need, look in the database and say, hey, this is the best viewer for the job. Contact them, see if they can work the project, task them with the coordinates and do stuff like that. Just the nuts and bolts. If we had somebody like that on a full-time basis,
how soon do you
right
think
now
you'd
we
raise
would have a
something like that?
working assigned witness program.
Okay, how do you think you'd get,
How much does it pay?
It pays nothing.
how soon do you think it might pay?
We have no money, period.
About Good Samaritan law?
The Good Samaritan law? I think so. I am just poverty-stricken when it comes to knowledge about the legal ramifications of everything. I've had my mind set on the training, on writing the books, and so on, and I'm one of those people that gets mad every time they do their income tax because it doesn't have to be that way, And we got the simple papers for the state's application for nonprofit, and by the time I was screaming and throwing things, I finally handed it off to somebody else, and I don't know what went on. I mean, it doesn't have to be that way,
Simpler.
Okay, the question is, why not go commercial? It was commercial because it was a public service of my company, PSI. However, to get grants, to get things like that, that when it's commercial is a bigger nightmare, I was told, than going nonprofit. And so
Get research grants, nonprofit.
get research grants and get,
And you have tax exempt status.
yeah, and donations and such as that.
Uh-huh.
Whereas if you did that with a private company, you'd spend all your time in bookwork and paperwork and, I mean,
And then
everything else.
labs.
What hardware do we need? Pipe dream wise here, I would love to have a T1 line and my own ISP. Now that's not going to happen. Hardware wise, we can make do with what we have now. We're making do, but that's basically it. I have a web page for the assigned witness program, which I just haven't had time to even put up an HTML file saying this page is under construction. And so I've got the page. We don't have anything done for it. I'm trying to get 2 books written, and right at this point, I'm still under the impression that the best thing I can do personally for the assigned witness program is to get these books out on the market, because they're very heavy on the assigned witness program, what can be done and all that. And so to familiarize the public. And well, like a couple of weeks ago, Whitley Strieber had said that he would like to have me on the is it Dreamland show. And so I was emailing him back and forth about something else, and he was evidently gone or something. So I just mentioned down at the end of the email, by the way, whenever you want me on, you know, I'll make the time, just let me know. And his wife evidently was pulling down his email because he wasn't there. And she wrote back and she said, well, generally, we have viewers on who have written books. Well, I'm sorry. I'm trying, you know, but that's pretty much the way it is. If you've written a book and if you've gotten a book out there, then you get the attention. If you haven't, you haven't.